the first question is, if thrust overcomes gravity, will it ever stop?
The basic forces work like this. Lift and gravity actually oppose each other, and thrust and drag work against each other. And what you do with a glider is a lot more interesting. You have to engineer in a way for the plane to pick up speed without an engine. And so what you do is, like what I've done with this plane, is you put a lot of weight in the nose. A lot of the layers go in the nose of the plane. And the center of gravity then, where gravity appears to be acting, is ahead of all of this wing area back here. And it's called the center of lift, where lift appears to be acting. But if you've got more wing area behind the weight, that'll lift the tail up like this, and now the nose is pointed at the ground, and the plane starts going fast. It gets accelerated at the speed of gravity, which is 9.8 meters per second every second. It goes a little bit faster. It goes 9.8 meters per second faster every single second. So it really gains speed fast. So if you don't do anything else, the plane will crash. So what you do is what I've done here. You bend the back of the plane up just a little bit, and that's called up elevator. And when the plane is going fast enough, just enough air reflects off the back of that little bend to push the tail down and lift the nose back up. And so that's how every glider works to stay in the air.
How do you design different paper airplanes?
Well, that's an interesting process. I'm not really sure I know myself. I'm always inventing new planes, but I don't really know the precise mechanism. I have a general idea in terms of what works shape-wise, shapes that I like, and what works, moving weight one direction or another, how drag works and all that. And then I studied origami for about 10 years, and I'm always taking those folding tricks back to making high-performance paper airplanes. So I think, accuracy in folding is really important. Having a good toolkit is really important, having a lot of folding, technique at your disposal. And then, you just kind of come up with ideas and explore those ideas. It's fun.
Which aerodynamic principle did you apply to make the bat plane?
So the bat plane is a really interesting design. We touched on it earlier. And so the bat plane, you can adjust a lot of different paper airplanes to do kind of a stair-step pattern, and that stair-step pattern is caused by the plane stalling and recovering and stalling and recovering. And what I was able to discover, I had not intended to make a plane that had a stair-step pattern built into it. And the bat plane had this kind of really rapid stair-step pattern when you folded it with regular 20-pound paper. And so that was interesting to watch the first time. It took me a couple of weeks to figure out why it was doing that and how it was doing that. And so this idea of stalling and recovering is really the key to getting the bat wing to make it look like it's flapping. It climbs and the wings kind of flex together because the body of the plane is very flexible. So the wings flex upward as it's climbing. When it gets to the top, it stalls and the wings relax, and then it climbs and stalls and climbs and stalls. So it's actually kind of a terrible aircraft. It's going through a constant series of stalls, which makes it not a very good plane. But it certainly is fun to watch. And that's really the principle of the thing. And I always like to talk to kids about how this works. People in general are interested in it because their first inclination is when they watch it fly is that the flapping is helping it fly. And it couldn't be further from the truth. It's 180 degrees from that. It's the bad flight that actually makes for the flapping instead of the flapping making for a good flight.
That's all the questions I have. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions for you? Yeah. So how does this project get used? What are you going to do with this interview?
I'm going to use it for an oral report. For
a what?
An oral report.
Oh, an oral report. Okay. So it seems like I've done all the talking here. You haven't done. What grade am I going to get on this report? So do you fold a lot of planes, Hannah? That would be my other question.
No, I just mostly just sometimes order some books from the library and just fold the planes out of there.
Yeah, okay. That's how I started. Yeah. So, you fold planes from other people's books and fold a little origami, and pretty soon you'll be folding your own planes. That's how that works.
Do you want to show Mr. Collins the books that you have?
I have some of your books.
Oh, you do? Okay. Which ones?
I have The Gliding Flight and the new world champion paper airplane book?
So that's the very first book I wrote is The Gliding Flight, and The New World Champion is the last book that I went through a publisher with. I actually have a new book, a newer book than that one. The libraries haven't bought it yet, but I'm proud of all my books, but that first book, The Gliding Flight, I'm particularly proud of that. I didn't know I was going to get a chance to write a second book. And as you've discovered, it's got flip through animation in the margins to help you learn the difficult folds. And so, and I just, it was kind of like everything I knew about paper airplane making at the time. Although I have to say the flight theory chapter is a little sketchy. That's no longer the way we think about how things fly. So disregard that. It has nothing to do with Bernoulli, the way paper airplanes fly. It's not Bernoulli effect. It's the air being directed downward off the trailing edge of the wing, and maybe a tiny bit of low pressure on the top of the wing. Those two things are working together to keep your plane in the air.
All right. Anything else, Hannah?